Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is going on in the stars above. Happy Friday, the 13th, to everyone. Here it is, a sacred day steeped in a whole lot of superstition and fear. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. Uh, I've been waiting for this day for a while because you know, I always like to push, us into thinking differently and to examine why it is that we have certain ideas about what a Friday the 13th means, for example. Um, it should be an interesting show today as I go down through all of this. And of course, it begs the question, what about the 13th sign, Ophiuchus, Asclepius, whatever you want to call it, that astrologers in the main, the most of the astrologers refuse to acknowledge, refuse to even consider that it is impacting us. So we get to talk about a lot of good stuff today. And first of all, welcome to all of you who are showing up here this morning. I saw Debbie Tibbetts-Tumiel, who finally has her air conditioning. Yay, she has spent like the better part of the summer in Florida without air conditioning. I do not know how this poor woman has gone through this, but I'm so happy that you are now being taken care of, Debbie. Good morning to J Lo. Good morning to Tom and Linny. Good morning to you. It's great to have you with us. And Patty and TJ, good to have you with us this morning, at least that I can see. And all of you who are out there that I can't see, welcome. And hopefully today you learn some interesting things. So here's how we're going to run the day or the hour. First of all, we're going to talk about the moon, as we always do, because it sets the tone for the day. And today the moon is in Capricorn and will transition over into Aquarius for the weekend. So it's an interesting weekend as we move from the business orientation, the serious nature of Capricorn, more to the future orientation of Aquarius. But it's interesting because Saturn rules both signs, right? Saturn rules or has an affinity, a connection to Capricorn as in traditions and in structures and forms, and has a very business orientation here, like integrity and how do we run our business? How do we solidify our reputation? That kind of thing. So this is the Capricorn part of it, and then when he moves into Aquarius, or excuse me, when the moon moves into Aquarius, we're still in Saturn's territory, right? But now Saturn takes on a more inventive, innovative approach, also forward looking or future oriented. So our weekend might be a really good one for planning or for goal setting, for reimagining who you are, what you're doing, how you're going to do what you do, and moving forward in somehow in that way. So it's a really interesting weekend for that. I didn't check the void. Let's see here. So the weekend date will be today's the 13th. So we have oh wow. So we have like a maybe 15-minute void tomorrow. Early, like in my time zone, it would be in the midnight hour, midnight 35 to midnight 53. Pretty short, and then the moon will move over into Aquarius. But the last aspect, I guarantee, is going to be the one with Pluto, right? And Pluto now back in Capricorn at the very last degree, haunting us 1961ers that to change our lives, transform things. It's been an interesting experience. But before I jump further into the moon, I want to share a little bit of a story. Not sure if I shared this on Monday or not, but for everybody at this moment, Pluto is sitting in the gate 60 in your human design, and the gate 60 sits on the root center, and it is called the gate of limitation. And which I think is the setup, right? Here's the setup that we have been told that not, that gate 60 is the gate of limitation. That's from traditional human design. In quantum human design, hold on, I want to get the right, I think it's conservation. Conservation. So we get this idea already from the gate 60 that there's some kind of limits or some kinds of boundaries or some kind of container, perhaps, that we are kind of meant to transform into, perhaps, or transform out of, perhaps. And I happened to be chatting with with Ankara, who does the Success Codex, because in my chart, and maybe even you, Tom, and Londa, and others of you born in 1961 ish, you may also have your Saturn and maybe even design Jupiter sitting at the gate 60. And the gate 60 to me has always felt like this cap that I've been wearing or a limiter. And of course, that was just like built up even more when I found out it was called the gate of limitation. And I was like, oh, yeah, now I get it. I'm limited. I need to stay the course. I need to be, blah, blah, in a box. And I was talking to her about this. I said, I don't know how to really reframe this in a way that makes sense for me because I feel like I have this limit on me. And she gave me some reframing that I want to pass on to you, only because all of you now have 60 being activated by Pluto, the great transformer and empowerer, and how it has entirely changed me, right, by knowing this. And that is that the gate 60 is about having a container, a structure, a form that supports you in doing what it is that you love to do or what it is that you want to do in your life. It is like a magical cauldron, she told me, where you put all of your skills and all of your knowledge into that is held in this container and it gets alchemized. Alchemized meaning we're changing forms and then comes out into the world, but you have a structure that supports it. Wow, what a different way to view the gate 60. And I guess on some level, I kind of knew that that was a possibility, that it was more about the structure that supports the moving, forward. Because we all need structure, right? If you didn't have the bones in your body, you would just be a meat puddle. And if your business or your relationship didn't have some kind of container or some kind of structure, it wouldn't go anywhere, right? It wouldn't have any ability to go anywhere because it would just be mush on the floor, right? That's the thing. So it really changed my whole way of thinking about the gate 60. And then Pluto is in the gate 60 at least through the end of the year. I haven't gotten my 2025 ephemeris yet for human design, but I do have the other one. I could look it up, but it's too much trouble to get it. But I'm pretty sure even into January of 2025, Pluto is still sitting at the gate 60. So all of us are transforming our structures, our boundaries, our limits to be able to hold the magic. And then that magic can come out in a way that enables us to share it, to sustain the sharing of said magic, right? Of said whatever it is that you're doing. So boom, just a total reframing of that. So I liked starting that. And especially because now this weekend, today especially, and into late tonight and into the early morning, the moon will be passing through the sign of Capricorn and hitting on top of that Pluto, which means the moon will also be through gate 60. So if you're feeling the squeeze, right, if you're feeling the constriction, reframe it for yourself into, well, what is it about this feeling I have? What is it in my life that I need to bring more into this magical cauldron so that I can use it for good in my life, in my world, and in sharing with others? So, boom, there you have that. I like that whole reframing idea. Now, So the key themes, though, let's take a look at this quickly because I really do want to spend more time on Friday the 13th today. Um, the themes of the moon at Capricorn run down the list from this idea of practicality and responsibility, because practical Earth sign Capricorn and responsibility Saturn as the ruler. So the Capricorn moon urges us to focus on practical matters and take care of serious business, right? To take care of it, whatever it is in your life. It's a great time to evaluate your commitments, your goals, your dreams, and are you putting any action behind those things? And the transit can help us the transit of the moon through Capricorn can help us bring clarity to our long-term plans. And it's an ideal time then to focus on the tasks that need to be done in order to get to the goal, right? It is a great time for giving in to goal setting and goal planning and ambitions, right? This is an energy that's really known for its drive to success. And now we have this emotional energy of the moon, the timing energy of the moon, the intuitive energy of the moon, giving us some Capricorn lead in to ambition and drive. So we might feel inclined to reassess our careers. My daughters and I were having this conversation yesterday. So interesting the timing, because yesterday the moon was also in Capricorn. And that drive for success then bringing on perhaps new professional objectives or a project that's going to require your sustained effort to bring to fruition. It's emotional discipline, right? The discipline that it takes even to the point where, we start to feel maybe negative about the potential for what we're doing, but our ability to bring in that energy and focus it and stay with the emotion of what that project brings to you. What is the end result? And it can help us remain emotionally grounded and in a ways to strike that sort of emotional tone of calm neutrality, right? Not going high, not going necessarily low either, but neutrally moving forward, disciplined in the way that we look at the emotional energy around us. And of course, the focus does come to stability and the security that is inherent in having a stable foundation, right? To have those roots. So stability and order are big key themes during this period of time, as well as taking a reflective moment to look back over your commitments and are they the correct commitments for you, right? The moon in Capricorn invites us to take a look at that. And whether it's about your career or your relationships or your personal growth, looking at those commitments can help you discern whether you are faced in the right direction or not. Right? Did I get into the right things, or have I somehow, given away my power and started things that I didn't really want to finish? That kind of thing. So consider restructuring or reevaluating areas of your life where you want to see growth. Remember, Capricorn is going to be in the chart for all, right? It's not just, me or the world. I'm going to highlight the Capricorn symbol here. Kind of looks like a 76. We've got to go that way. This is the symbol for Capricorn. And there you can see the moon, part of fortune, Pluto, and before the moon is Ceres. So it isn't just Pluto that's sitting there. There's other energies that are provoking us to move into this restructuring idea. So, how do we make the most of this Capricorn moon? Well, first of all, plan and organize. It's an earth sign. It loves organization, it loves the planning process. It's a time to focus on your to do list, to create an actionable step by step plan to get to where you want to go, work on a long term goal, right? Seeing down through the next year, perhaps even. It's never too late to start thinking about the future, right? Now, don't live in that future, live in this now, but what can you do now to support that future? Set boundaries, right? But don't make them so tight that you can't stretch, right? It's a very interesting thing that Capricorn is an earth sign because earth in human design and actually in astrology too holds the container, the capacity that we have to grow. right? In order to grow or evolve, we have to expand the container. But we can't expand it so fast that, like a rubber band, it snaps and breaks. But we also have to stretch or we don't grow. So we have to manage that, and we can partially do that by reflecting on our past achievements. What has been our foundation? What have been our successes? Our what have we been recognized for? And how can we take that experience and move it into future plans or for the future? So it's a powerful opportunity for us this weekend, today and tomorrow, meaning, or today especially, because today's the full day of the moon in Capricorn, to be practical and focus on your long term goals. Now, tomorrow, the energy switches with the moon's move into Aquarius, and that shift from the grounded, disciplined Capricorn goes to the more intellectual, innovative, socially conscious vibe of Aquarius. And Aquarius is an air sign. It is ruled by the planet Uranus, but also in the modern times, Uranus, but also in traditional astrology, it was Saturn that ruled Aquarius. So we have this affinity between Saturn in Capricorn and Saturn in Aquarius. And here, Saturn encourages us to think outside of the box, right? To outside of those limits in collective and meaningful ways, right? Meaning that how is what we're learning, or how is it that we can share our gifts and our talents with the collective in a bigger way? Aquarius is known for its futuristic and its progressive mindset, moving us forward, thinking outside of the box, solving problems in new ways. And so that means it's a perfect time this weekend from Saturday through Sunday to brainstorm, right? To see different ideas and to experiment with different approaches to problems or consider new possibilities, and look at, take a creative, visionary approach to your life. Aquarius is also about independence and freedom. It's got a Sagittarius flair here. You might feel the urge to break away from routines or structures that feel constricting, or too confining. So instead, focus on ways to express your individuality, your specific point of view in the world. Explore what makes you unique and embrace your authentic self. It's always fun to do that. Aquarius energy encourages you to follow your own path, even if it's unconventional. Uranus is unconventional, right? He is the untried, the untrue, the rebel, the contrarian. He's in retrograde at this moment. Is that correct? Hold the Yes, he's in retrograde that this moment. So that means that a lot of this can be changes that we're making on the inner planes, right? That after he changes direction in January can then be expressed out into the world. He brings us social connections and group dynamics and friends and associations and philanthropic or social work. All of these things that support our being an individual, but an individual that's part of a collective, that's part of a humanitarian planet, a planet with humans on it, right? Planets, or I mean, humans. um, Aquarius is also a sign. Now, this is the moon is emotions and your intuition, your inner self. And it's moving through a sign of emotional detachment and objectivity. So Aquarius brings that detached intellectual approach to emotions and to feelings, and attempts to be objective about those feelings. So the emotional detachment of Aquarius, or the moon in Aquarius, can be useful if you need to resolve conflicts with anybody or to make decisions without being overwhelmed by the emotional energy of it all. So take the time to embrace your uniqueness. Break the norms, right? Don't do things just the way everybody's always done them just because. It's just not about that right now. It's time to explore new interests, new hobbies, or activities that break you out of routine and kind of stimulate that um, interesting new feeling in your life. It's stimulating your mind, as it were. Okay. And how to make the most of the moon in Aquarius. Then we're going to talk about engaging with your communities, about being open to new ideas, about volunteering or getting involved in a cause. Give yourself freedom, right? Let those tethers undo, right? Let them go. So the weekend brings a breath of fresh air. Always, when we have energy in Aquarius, it is encouraging us to explore the new ideas, connect with like minded individuals, perhaps, embrace your individuality, a time for social engagement, innovation, stepping into a more future focused mind. Like, what do we see down into the future? Expand your thinking, explore, be a little bit out of the box, right? That's the best news, I think, for all of us in this time that we're living in. We have one major transit going on for the weekend, and it is a awesome transit, and that is Venus in a trine to Jupiter. The word between the planets is describing the relationship the two planets will have with one another. A trine is an ease and flow of the energies between the two planets in the signs that they are in. Venus and Jupiter are called the benefic planets. We always think of them in astrology as bringing us good things. Venus, beauty and harmony and peace and love and relationship. Jupiter, expansion of our consciousness, expansion in our lives, fortune and good luck. And when these two come together, then we have this really juicy time of opportunities, maybe of abundance, of joyfulness, and that relates to or is in our relations and our money, in abundance, that kind of thing. So, the first key theme of this transit will bring up harmony in our relationships, balance in relationships. It's really good for smoothing over the rough edges in the relationships that we're in. And it's a great time to enjoy pleasant interactions with the people in your lives. We're having a family gathering on the weekend. And tomorrow, my daughters and I, this is so funny. I told them I want to go to Bath and Body Works tomorrow and get candles. Then I had about 3 or 4 clients in a row that I had to work with, and while I was busy with my clients, these 2 reframed the entire day. We're now making soy candles tomorrow with, essential oils, and I have no clue how this is going to go, but it sounded like fun, so I'm on board. So expansion, maybe a new something new. It's rather than buying candles that are of questionable making, let's make our own. We know where the ingredients came from. Sounds like fun. The weekend can bring an expansion of love and social opportunities as we feel more outgoing. We feel more generous and gregarious, I guess could be a good word. It is a good impulse of romance for our relationships, our closest relationships. It brings up intellectual curiosity and creativity as Jupiter's in Gemini, right? Gemini, the sign of creative writing, creative thinking, it is exploring new ideas with through curiosity, new subjects, etc. And then, of course, Venus brings that refined aesthetic sense, making us really tune into what's beautiful and how to harmonize and bring beauty. There's good fortune and a positive outlook. We have this, feeling of optimism for the weekend, which, is a great time to express that. Indulge in the pleasures of life, have some fun, do some things that you love, be passionate about what you love, express that. But don't forget as well, because Jupiter's in, well, both, right? Venus in Libra, a sign that needs to make sure they're diplomatic and balancing, but Jupiter and Gemini also monitoring words and the emotion behind the words or what the meaning behind the words are. So make sure you're diplomatic in your communication, that you're balancing those things that you need to say to people so that you're not doing harm with your words, right? This is a harmonious flow of energy, but sometimes if you get into the negative, that becomes a harmonious flow between the two planets as well. So I don't want to make you think it's all good and any conversation that you bring up right now is going to be met with this awesome, oh, open-hearted, I love that you're telling me how horrible I've been in this relationship kind of thing because it could go really wrong, right? So make sure that you're using words in a tender way, in a compassionate way, and not using it as swords or as weapons, right? Words can hurt, words can heal. So use the healing aspect of this. So, how to make the most of Venus trine Jupiter for the weekend? Well, socialize and connect. Get out there and be with your friends or your family, explore new ideas, maybe indulge in a creative effort, making candles. I guess I'm going to be open to creativity. I've never made candles that I remember, so it should be fun. Spread kindness and generosity and love and be passionate. Bring balance your pleasurable activities with responsibility, right? We don't need to, throw all the responsibilities out the window just in order to have fun or have pleasure. Make sure you balance those things. But I love that the weekend has that transit as a part of it. All right, let's see who else is out here this morning. I saw TD Hawk join in. Hello there. Londa, hello. It's great to have you with us this morning. Lenny says, I thought I learned years ago that human design gate 60 was the MacGyver gate, taking all the things you have, no matter how ordinary, and using them to break out and create the extraordinary. The gate 3 on the other side of the gate 60 is a gate of innovation and inventiveness. So if you take the structure and the form of the 60 and you blend it with the innovation of the 3, create the channel 3 to 60, then you do have that exactly. I guess none of the MacGyver things can help if you don't have the structure through which those things can be explored. But it's very much possible that those things are a part of that. Michelle, good morning to you. Karen Brackett, Gate 60. What an awesome affirmation and recognition of human progress, right? Exactly. Londa, some are reporting heavy dark energy. So are you saying refocusing our energies into re-examine and reflect, reevaluate, plan? Yes, I am saying that, right? It's all in how, there are, we live on a planet of duality. We can't have the light if we don't have the dark. And if we don't have the dark and we can't see the light, how can we evolve toward anything, right? So we have to have both. I don't like it either, but I came here for a reason to make sure that, you know, there is at least a half of the planet focused in the light, and that we can maybe more focus on the light and bring our planet out of the darkness of duality, right? So I think that's why we might have come here, to bring us to find a more meaningful definition of duality, of polarity, right? Right now, all we see out there in the world is this idea of how polarized everything is, where, we can't work together even. We can't get anything done, governmentally or, even in our communities. So, taking that, what you're saying, Londa, is how do we elevate that? How do we bring that into a new expression? Nargis, good morning. Angela, Christine, good morning. JLo says, thank you. I've been pondering something and needed an answer, and that just gave it to me. Woo! I love it. Christine Zola, good morning. When is Pluto going to be in Aquarius again? In November. We have another 10 weeks. 10 weeks. I'm counting down. Can you tell, Christine? We have 10 more weeks of Pluto in Capricorn. Then he will move, and this puts us, and I can't remember the date exactly. It's in November, mid November, late November. And then he will not go back into Capricorn in our lifetimes. We'll be done, right? But as I say that, you have to know that when we're talking about this level of transformation that Pluto's been bringing to us, it doesn't turn on a dime, right? We'll still be dealing with the vestiges of Capricorn, the mess in our government, our institutions, and our structures that don't support sustainability for a while yet. Right. So it doesn't mean that as we get into November, that suddenly we're all Aquarian and progressive and thinking about humanity and universality and all of that, because that's not quite how it happens. It happens over time. And Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years. We've already seen the seeding of the things, the the content, if you will, of what the next 20 years will bring us, but we haven't yet turned that corner, and it's gonna take some time to do that. So just keep that in mind. We're still gonna see the old trying to come back, the whole "let's bring it back," let the sacred masculine trying to reassert its patriarchal influence. It's been really powerful, but we're switching into a different mindset here as we go forward. Terry Strauss, good morning. 60 is open, which means that you now have Pluto, a very transformative energy sitting at your gate 60. No wonder you're remodeling your home. No, you're restructuring everything. And by the way, Pluto has been at 60 for a while. He didn't just like move in there yesterday. He's been there and annoying us, if you will, bringing this up. Karen, Gate 60, what an awesome way to see and affirm humanity's progress. I remember when I first reframed the view of my ex's last name from enclose to support, right? Reframing is so powerful, right? It can really change your way of looking at the world. And you're most welcome, Londa. The dawning of the age of Aquarius, Christine Buckingham says, I think this is really the true dawning of the age of Aquarius because Pluto really is the signifier of an age, right? Of a longer period of time that will be impacted by its stuff. So, or its new energy. All right, are you guys ready to dive into Friday the 13th? Hmm. So I want to dive into the Friday the 13th, its history. I mean, I even learned some things that I didn't know, really, or hadn't drawn, the parallels and the connections yet. The superstitions and even its role in astrology, because it does hold a role here, and including the sign, the constellation of Ophiuchus, whose foot is now on the ecliptic plane, making it so that the sun is now transiting through 13 13 signs, 13 constellations on its trek through the solar system. And I want to see if we can't shine a positive light on all of this. But first, let's look at the origins of Friday the 13th. And a lot of you probably know some of this information, so bear with me, but a lot of people out there might not know some of this stuff. There is a lot of medieval connections to the number 13. For example, the Knights Templar being arrested and put to death on Friday the 13th, and the bad reputation that we have assigned Friday the 13th, like buildings don't have a 13th floor, elevators, if have no 13. If you press there isn't a 13th button to press. There's a cultural significance to all of this, where our societies, in this more modern age, have kind of ignored 13, right? We haven't really brought too much to the table on the 13. But ancient societies like Egypt, and they really celebrated, even China, the divine feminine energy, the spiritual traditions of the divine feminine that included the 13 lunar cycles, right? There's 13 moons in a year. And so let's take a look at the origins, perhaps, of some of this superstitious stuff. And the first thing, as I mentioned, was the Knights Templar. And this was on Friday, October the 13th of 1307. And that means way back in time. And the Knights Templar were one of the most powerful orders during that time, right? They played a significant role in the Crusades. And again, this isn't bad or good. This is just what it is or has been. And on Friday the 13th in October, under the orders of King Philip IV of France, members of the Knights Templar were arrested in mass. And King Philip was heavily influenced by the Pope, right? The Pope at the time. And he was also indebted to the Templars. He owed them a lot of money. And by having them arrested, he aimed to seize their wealth and to eliminate the threat that they posed to his power. We go back to power. So, what we're really seeing, if you think about this, is a very archetypally patriarchal action being taken, right? That it is the changeover out of some of the more matriarchal energies into this patriarchal energy. And the Templars, they were accused of heresy. They were called heretics, blasphemy, and various other crimes, many of which were fabricated or exaggerated, and many members were tortured and executed. And the event marked the beginning of the downfall of the Order of the Knights Templar. And then Friday the 13th began to be linked with bad luck, with death, maybe even uh, tragedy, and some believe that that event actually solidified the superstition that Friday the 13th was an ill-fated day, going way back in time, right? 700 and some years ago. Then there's also the number 13's bad reputation in Western culture, where it's been considered unlucky, right? Unlucky, like a black cat passes your crosses your path. I have a black cat. Well, she's not sitting behind me this morning, but I have a black cat. And the connotation here starts with the Last Supper. And this is like one of the most influential roots of the superstition. It comes from the Last Supper in the Christian tradition. And according to the New Testament, there were 13 people at the table during Jesus's last meal before the crucifixion, and that Jesus had his 12 disciples, of which the Judas Iscariot was one of them, and he's the disciple who betrayed Jesus, and so he's often considered the 13th guest at the table, and it reinforces the idea that the number 13 is linked to betrayal and to misfortune. So this runs deep, right? This runs deep. It gets validated by things that are said through different religions, and the number 13 gets, more and more added on to its superstition. And in many cultures, the number 12 was considered a number of completeness, right? This was reflected in the various systems and natural cycles that were brought to bear: 12 months in a year, 12 signs of the zodiac, 12 gods in some mythologies. For example, the Olympian gods of Greek mythology, there were the 12 main gods, the 12 apostles of Jesus. So the number 12 is considered complete. This is all linked in our heads, by the way. That doesn't make it complete, but it is, it's an interesting number. It's an even number. And because the number 13 goes beyond 12, it's often viewed as disruptive, right? Or incomplete. And so in some traditions, this is seen as our stepping into the unknown or even the unstable territory or instability. And so that leads to the association as well of 13 being bad luck. It's incomplete. It's only divisible by itself in one, right? It's an odd number. It is it's not a prime number. What is that word? Anyway. And then, of course, the fear of number 13 even has its own word, triskaidekaphobia, which is the term that's become to be associated with the fear of the number 13. And the fear manifests in everyday life, such as skipping the 13th floor in a building. We were talking about this, omitting the 13th row on airplanes, avoiding scheduling important events on the 13th day of the month, especially if that 13th day of the month falls on a Friday the 13th, because Fridays also have superstition attached to it. So Friday has been considered unlucky in some traditions, especially in older Christian cultures, due in part because it's believed that Jesus was crucified on a Friday, Good Friday, right? Which made the day associated with mourning and bad fortune. And Friday is a day of fasting and penance, also created an aura of solemnity and all of that throughout Christian history. So, in many English speaking cultures, Friday was considered an unlucky day for starting a new project, for traveling, or making major decisions. And the combination then of Friday unluckiness and Friday the 13th unluckiness just sort of magnified the superstition around Friday the 13th. So fascinating when you think about this. Now, the number 13 hasn't always been considered unlucky. For example, in ancient Egypt, the number 13 was viewed as a symbol of death and rebirth, right? A necessary step in our spiritual transformation. And similarly, in some other feminine spiritual traditions, the number 13 is linked to the 13 cycles of the moon, right? The 13 lunar cycles. And that is seen as a sacred number, then, linked to the divine feminine and lunar energy. And these perspectives offer a much more empowering view of the number 13 in contrast to the fear of the Western culture obsession with the number 13 as being bad luck or unlucky. So, by taking a look at these cultural biases, almost even, we can see that some of these things were, misunderstood in cultures gone by. We've carried this on into this now without even really questioning what the heck are we believing this for? All right. So let's take a look now at some of the more popular superstitions and debunk some of these myths if we can, right? So, Friday the 13th has been a source of all of these different weird superstitions like avoiding travel. I've never heard that one. That's a new one on me. But many believe that traveling on Friday the 13th is bad luck, especially if it comes on an air travel or a day of long distance trips that likely stems from the general anxiety that people have around Friday the 13th. Of course, none of us have this, I hope. But despite this fear, statistics show that Friday the 13th is no more dangerous for travel than any other day of the calendar year. Myth debunked. Um, Another superstition we have is about avoiding making major decisions on Friday the 13th. Some people avoid making big life decisions, such as signing contracts or starting new ventures or making purchases like homes or cars. They believe that any action taken on this day is destined to fail or can lead to misfortune. And again, if you look at the statistics, the day is no more misfortunate than any other day. And we can also take a look at this whole idea of avoiding dangerous activities on the 13th or Friday the 13th. Um, there are people who will avoid having surgery on the 13th, moving homes on the 13th, making even a major celebration scheduled for the 13th, all to prevent accidents or to prevent a negative outcome. The impact fear has, right? Breaking mirrors, black cats, and other common omens of the superstitious, that it amplifies the other superstitions that we have, like the fear of breaking a mirror, which supposedly brings what 7 years of bad luck. Walking under ladders as a superstition, encountering a black cat. And while those superstitions exist on their own, away from Friday the 13th, they become even more feared on a day like today, Friday the 13th. And of course, the superstition of Friday the 13th even influences our pop culture, especially with movies like Friday the 13th, the horror movie franchise. And the films have helped reinforce sort of the notion that Friday the 13th is associated with fear and danger and bad luck and other media references to Friday the 13th. The fact that we're even talking about it today kind of brings it into our everyday common vernacular, right? How we talk about this. So debunking the myths begins with challenging the fears, right? Challenging them. I know you guys probably aren't really fearful of Friday the 13th, and we're going to dive into the sacredness of this day here in just a minute. So start by acknowledging that there is this fear around it. You might even hold because you're part of the collective. You might even have, this little niggling doubt that you should do anything of consequence today. So first, question it. Question the validity of that thought. You could just say, how many of us have avoided making a decision or changed plans because it's Friday the 13th, only to have everything turn out perfect in the end, right? I guarantee you there is more people out there that are starting things or doing really positive things, celebrating things today, and the day turns out perfectly okay, then there are people that are experiencing bad luck. But statistically, right, if we looked at a reality check through statistics, Friday the 13th is no more dangerous or unlucky than any day of the year. In fact, in some cases, accidents and mishaps are less common because people tend to be more cautious on this day. So I invite you all, and I invite us all as a collective to reframe the number 13. Right? Let's take a look at this, and not as an unlucky bad luck symbol, but as a symbol of transformation and new beginnings. Right? In various spiritual traditions, 13 has such positive connotations, like, the 13 lunar cycles in the year that particularly those connected to the moon, right? Societies or cultures that were connected to the moon, and its association with the divine feminine energy and the natural rhythms of life, right? That ignoring the number 13 has pulled us away from. Right? And in ancient, Egypt, as we said, the number 13 was linked to ascension. In the Mayan calendar and the Pleiadian-Earth calendar, all the days that are numbered 13 are days of ascension. And and ascension meaning a day to transform or evolve to the next level, right? The next level of something. So instead of fearing this day, consider it as a day for reflection and transformation. Um, Fridays, the Friday day of the week, is ruled by the planet Venus. And it's a natural day of love, creativity, and connection. And that's because Friday is linked to Norse mythology, the goddess Freya, or Frigg, sometimes she is called. And she is the Roman goddess Venus and Aphrodite, or Greek goddess Venus and Roman goddess Aphrodite. I might have that backwards. So reframe the day and reframe the number. What if we flip the script, right? What if we, instead of seeing Friday the 13th as a time of bad luck, it's a reminder for us to pause, to reflect, and to embrace new opportunities? Think of it as a day to set new intentions, or especially if you've been feeling stuck, a day to transform, a day to move forward, to get out of the stuck zone, if you will, and use it as a day, as a gateway for change, as a day for empowering yourself to make a move, right? To do something different, to go through some healing energies, right? Instead of avoiding decisions or postponing big plans, why not see this as a day of opportunity, or a day that you could take a leap of faith? It could be about embracing change and trusting the process. Okay. So reshaping and reframing, we saw how powerful this morning it was in my conversation around reframing the gate 60 in human design. But what if we all began to take a new look at the number 13 and reframed it for good and for positivity? All right. Now, let's take a look at Friday the 13th and the divine feminine, because I believe, and I'm sure many other I've read authors that have kind of thought the same thing, that the um, the making of the number 13 as evil or somewhat, bad fortune was kind of moving in lockstep with the patriarchy taking over the matriarchy. So, to in order to sort of erase or make more diminutive the impact of the matriarchy, the patriarchy takes the treasures of the divine feminine, the sacred number 13, the 13 moon cycle that's linked to women and their menstrual cycles, and makes it somewhat bad or evil, right? Historically, that's what happened. Archetypically, that is what's happened. So Friday again that is named for Freya, the goddess. She's a Norse goddess associated with love and fertility and beauty and femininity. And in many traditions, Friday is linked to Venus, the Roman goddess of love and beauty. All right, so we have that reinforcing its connection, the number 13 and Friday, to the goddess of creativity, love, joy, play, or not play, but harmony, balance. And Venus rules over our relationships, self love, love in general, and harmony, making Friday a naturally feminine day of the week. And it's celebrated for we celebrate Friday because it's the end of the work week and we're going on into the weekend, but it's a time for connection. Relaxation is upon us and creativity. And then, of course, in ancient cultures that were primarily feminine in nature or matriarchal, there was the 13 sacred number connected to the cycles of the moon. And the moon has always been tied to feminine energy, governing cycles, governing intuition, emotions, fertility, and the like. Um, and again, women's natural menstrual cycles often aligned with the lunar phases, and many goddess centered traditions honor this connection, right? And the moon's 28-day cycle corresponds to the average menstrual cycle, and with the 13 lunar months in a year. So the number 13 became, in those societies, a symbol of feminine power and a link to natural rhythms and cycles, which you can tell in this modern world that we have gotten so far removed from it, right? Ancient cultures, particularly pre patriarchal societies, revered the number 13 as a representation of the goddess, of life giving, life affirming energies, and the cycle of nature, right? The whole natural cycles. So, with the rise of patriarchal structures, many symbols of the divine feminine, including the number 13, were gradually demonized and considered unlucky. And this was in part an effort to suppress the power and the wisdom of the divine feminine. As these structures shifted societal focus away from nature based cyclical wisdom toward more linear hierarchical structures and systems. As societies then transitioned to view 12 as a complete number, 13 began to be seen as irregular, chaotic, threatening. And it was threatening to the established order, right? Order, further aligning it with fears of the unknown. All right. So Friday the 13th, let's reclaim the feminine in order to reclaim that Friday the 13th kind of feeling. Rather than being feared, Friday the 13th can be seen as a day to honor the divine feminine, a time to connect with the nurturing, intuitive, and transformative qualities of the feminine, that the feminine embodies. So it's an invitation for us to reconnect with cycles of nature, the natural cycles of nature, honoring the rhythms of the moon, your body, and the earth. It is an invitation to tap into your creativity, where Venus's influence on Fridays aligns with creative power of the feminine, making it a perfect day to start a creative project. Why not, right? Embrace transformation. The number 13 symbolizes change and rebirth and growth, aligning it with the feminine's power to create life, to heal, and to transform. All very powerful things. and goddess celebrations and rituals on Friday the 13th. Many people around the world are now reclaiming the 13th, Friday the 13th, as a day to celebrate feminine energy through rituals and spiritual practices. So that can include moon rituals, where we honor the cycles of the moon, setting intentions or performing a release ceremony that aligns us with the energies of transformation and rebirth, using self care and connection, emphasizing those nurturing, healing qualities of the feminine, focusing on self love and spending time with other women, even, or with your own inner feminine to connect. With that energy that's within all of us, whether you're masculine or feminine, male or female, celebrating deities like Freya and Venus or other goddesses of love and fertility or beauty that represent the empowered divine feminine. And, from an astrological point of view, these new bodies that are being found, that have been being found since, 2000, 2005, maybe even, have all been named after feminine deities, right? Eris, Sedna, the goddess Ceres and Vesta and Juno. They're all named after the feminine pantheon, which to me symbolizes our need to return, even if it's archetypal. There's this like inner kind of maybe subconsciousness that's telling us that we need to return to the energy of the divine feminine to right our world, to bring it back into balance and harmony. And I'm not saying we need to swing from patriarchal to matriarchal, but we need to swing to bringing in the matriarchal and balancing it with the patriarchal so that the energy is more balanced. All right. Now, I also want to take an interesting look at this from the point of view of astrology. Now, there's a in Friday the 13th happening in a specific season or in a specific month also holds some energy for us to look at. So, Friday the 13th is happening right now in Virgo season. So, how is it that we can take and harness the Virgo energy that's being presented to us right now? And Virgo is, of course, an earth sign ruled by Mercury. We've talked about this before, and it's associated with qualities like practicality, organization, attention to detail, and service to others. And Virgo energy also offers us an opportunity to analyze and refine and improve different areas of our lives. And Virgo is energy of the goddess. So now on Friday the 13th, that is happening in Virgo season, we can channel that energy towards self improvement, right? Health, healing, well being. And especially since Virgo is known for her connection to the physical and emotional wellness, right, in the body, and our emotions. So use this time to focus on personal growth and related to health and healing and emotions and so forth. This could be a time to clear away the old, right? The old paradigm, your old beliefs and habits, both mental, emotional, physical, and it's kind of like a spiritual or a physical detox, right? Detoxing yourself. Virgo season is a time for healing and service, as Virgo is connected to health and well being. It is also a time then for self care and for healing. And this is different than when a Friday the 13th happens, say, in Sagittarius or in Scorpio or in Capricorn or any of the other signs. We're focusing this wonderful sacred energy on health and well-being. So maybe including some health rituals, encouraging you to um, participate in activities that support your health. Maybe focusing your energy on what it is you can do to help support others and as a path of service. And it is a time or a season for organizing and decluttering. It's not just in the physical sense, though, also emotionally and mentally. So, Friday the 13th during this time period then offers us opportunities to cleanse and purify all of those areas, right? The emotional, the mental, the physical, the spiritual area of life that feels out of balance. So, set new routines for yourself that are healthy. Let go of the old routines that no longer feel useful. I mean, how many times are we just doing things because, right? Virgo's also linked to Mercury, the planet of communication, intellect, and analysis. So, Friday the 13th during a Virgo season can be an ideal time for introspection, for critical thinking, and reevaluating your goals, your personal goals, and your bigger life goals. Ask questions like, what aspects of my life need more structure? Or how can I improve my habits for better well being? How can I let go of the old so that I can make room for the new? Maybe it's a time for writing and journaling to get access to your subconscious mind. Spiritual alignment can also occur in Virgo season. I want to call it practical magic. I love that movie. I love this time of year just for that ability to align with rituals around cleansing and grounding, making this Friday a 13th a perfect time to focus on practical spirituality. Grounding exercises like spending time in nature, practicing mindfulness, working with natural elements like crystals and herbs or essential oils, all things we're doing tomorrow, by the way, help us align with Virgo's earthy energy. So, Friday the 13th needs to be reframed, and we're the ones that can reframe it, right? When we hear old superstitious stuff coming up out there in the world, open the doorway to a conversation with that person that reframes that for them, or how you share how you have reframed what Friday the 13th means. And again, Friday the 13th in Virgo season about healing, organization, practical magic, and practical transformation. I hope this has been helpful for everyone. And I know there's a lot more that we can talk about this. I didn't even get to the part where we talk about the 13th sign, which is Ophiuchus, which falls in between Scorpio and Sagittarius energy. If we are looking at it as the time the sun is moving through that constellation, i.e., that zodiac sign or that sign, I'm going to get mail, I'm sure, for calling it a zodiac sign. So, to that end, circle this date on your calendar, November 21st, because that is just a week before the sun starts to pass through the sign of Ophiuchus. And we're going to be we're going to do a class that day on the 13th sign and how adding a 13th sign can impact us and restore us to more natural rhythms and cycles. I'm excited for that. That's your daughter's birthday, Lo. Yay! You'll remember that day. And of course, as usual, all classes are recorded. So if you cannot attend live, you will get the recording. And that is it for me today, everybody. I'm going to draw us a card for Friday the 13th. Hmm. And I think I'm going to have to dig a little bit here. So hold the phone for just a moment here while I want to find my Halloween deck, even though it's not necessarily Halloween, but it's closest to, um, is this it? Ha! I have this deck. Thank you to Debbie for sending this to me, the Halloween Oracle, because it's closest to some of the superstitions that we hold, not only for Friday the 13th, but also for the season that we are headed into, the season of fall, the harvest, Halloween. Interesting, this gateway day today that takes us from Friday the 13th into the fall harvest, into Halloween thinking. And I get ghost, regret, right? This is the card ghost. And under it, it says regret, which is not very clear. Let's see what this means for us today. Ghost is a G. Here we go. Like smoke rising from the ashes, a mist from the sea, the dead they are watching, they have come to haunt me. Interesting. I dreamt last night about my sister who just recently passed away. The traditional definition of a ghost is the apparition of the spirit or soul of a formerly living being. Ghosts can be both in human form or animal, and even occasionally inanimate objects, such as ghostly ships that have been reported. The belief in spirits and ghosts is extremely widespread across time and cultures, and different words such as spiritus, wraith, phantom, and shade have been used to refer to them. Ghosts can be both people that we have known, our ancestors, for example, who visit us to assist us, or presences that are bound to a particular place because they have found it difficult to let go even after death. The concept of the haunted house or the cursed place is the basis for many a creepy ghost story. In fact, the most interesting ghost stories often involve a very angry or destructive spirit coming back to wreak havoc and or revenge after its death. The old Norse word for ghost has the same root word as the word fury. It is said that the spirits that cannot let go of this world have a reason for this. Sometimes it is to warn the living, to guide them, but generally it's because they haven't finished their, in quotes, business here on the plane of the living. They have regrets that they wish to resolve. Should the ghost come gliding into your life during divination, it may indicate that you have some regrets to let go of. Holding grudges or regrets is burdensome work and it weighs us down eventually. By taking action to free ourselves of these old burdens, such a Pluto thing to do, we clear the way for more rightful and wise action for the future. We can begin to live again fully if we let go of what was and step into new possibilities. Oh, I think that's a pretty good card for us today. All right, you all. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to hit the like button if you are watching this on YouTube. Hit the, I forgot what it is on Facebook, but share the video with your friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care. I'll see you all on Monday.